Okay. Would you like to tell us about yourself, about your background, where you came from, where you were born?
Okay.
Okay, so tell us about that.
I certainly would, because you're my son. You, Jay and Bruce, you are our sons who were born a few years after we were married, which was in 1952. Dad and I, well, that's a long story. I better start from the beginning. I was born in 1925 and in a place called Bethel, New York, on a farm way, way in the mountains of the Catskills. And it was a farm that didn't have too much electricity. There were outhouses. There were bathrooms, not so many bathrooms in the house at the time. Different kinds of plumbing, no telephones. It was really bare. And I was only 2 when we moved away from there. So I don't remember anything, of course, on that farm, except what the older brothers and sisters told me. I was the youngest of 8 children, and I have very fond memories of my siblings. There are 2 of us left. Roy, who lives in Tarrytown, New
Find a
York,
picture.
and I, who live in Israel now. And also we had, and then I'll go back to the beginning again. We then, after the farm, Papa, my father Papa, we decided that he wanted to have a bakery and make a little money, because there wasn't much of it around at that time. So we moved to a place called Coney Island in New York. And I don't remember whether that was Brooklyn or not. I think it was just Coney Island. And so we lived there until I was 7, from the time I was 2 until I was 7. And we had a bakery. And it was such a busy bakery. There were so many people going in and out. And everybody worked in the bakery. My sister Mary, my sister Ann, my brother Harry, my brother Joe, my brother Nat. They all worked in the bakery. And Roy and I, and Reva, well, I don't know, Reva, Roy and I, we, not so much. And, but they were so busy all the time. And Grandpa, no, he wasn't Grandpa. He was called Zayda by all of you.
Your father.
My father. He was the baker, the head of it, and we had people working in the bakery for us. There were people there working away. Somebody would bake bread, somebody would bake cake, somebody would bake rolls. It was all part of the union, and the union required that they have special bakeries.
Wait just 1 second, I'm going to get the picture.
Okay.
Okay, keep talking.
Okay, and so then we had a lot of incidents that took place there. For instance, there was a big fire, and I was playing with my friends down the street, and Nat came along, and he said, "Shirley, come back. You have to come back to the house because there's a fire going on around here, and we have to be very careful. So you come back, and I'm going to take you on my shoulders," which he did. Put me right on his shoulders, and off we went back to the bakery. And we lived above it. We lived above the bakery in those days. And it was so interesting. And one of the most important things, and I do remember that so clearly, was that they had an epidemic of polio going on. And every day we used to see children being taken to the hospital on a stretcher. It was a terribly bad period of time. And they were so worried about Roy and me. We called him Izzy at that time. And they were very worried, and they told us to stay upstairs on the roof. The roof was a flat roof, and they had somebody take care of us, a lady who used to clean or something. So she sort of took care of us, and we stayed up on the roof so we wouldn't have to be with other children and play with them because it was so contagious. They were so worried. And then we wore, around our necks, we wore a camphor, I think it was called, a round thing, and it had a funny smell. And they felt, well, maybe that would help against the polio. They didn't know what. So people were so frightened in those years.
Was there any proof that the camphor prevented polio, or they didn't know?
Not really. I don't know where it came from. That may have just been an idea someone had. I don't know. I don't know where that came from. But I remember we used to wear that around our necks. And that was one of the things there. But a little incident that happened with my mom, and she used to go down the street to shop for fruits and vegetables. So I went with her one time. Of course I was little, and I had ideas of things, what I would like. And I saw this very green, beautiful vegetable in a barrel, and I said, boy, I wonder what that tastes like. It looks so good. So I took one, and I tried it. And you know what? It was so horrible, I spit it out. It was so bitter. I didn't like it at all. And I said to myself, God punished me because I took something without asking, without buying it.
How old were you at the time?
I must have been about 8, 9, very young.
Yeah.
And so right away, I never did that again. That cured me. That was quite an experience. And then, that was in Coney Island. Then a lot of people used to go to the beach in Coney Island. It's a well-known area. And people used to go on rides in, what did they call it then? They called it something, I can't remember. I'll have to find out. The Coney Island had all kinds of rides around the beach. Luna Park? I don't remember. Something like Luna Park. I don't remember. But people used to take their children there in the summer. It was so much fun. And then we moved away from Coney Island, and my father bought a farm in a place called Wurtsboro, New York, which was also in the Catskills. Again, back to the Catskills, and we moved there, and that was a different kind of a farm because we had electricity, we had a telephone, we had all kinds of interesting things that were going on. Even electricity, telephone, and whatever, water in the house. So in Wurtsboro, that was very interesting to know about because that all of our children should know what I did there. We rented out rooms in the summer to a lot of people from New York City. It was north of New York City, and people loved to get away from the heat of the city. They didn't have air conditioning in those days, so they had to do something about getting comfortable. So they would come to our farm, and by the way, where they could go swimming, we had a brook alongside our farm, and so the children used to go in the brook to swim. And even though there were a lot of rocks and everything, we all went swimming there. And so that's one thing. And then they each had, I think we had about 8 or 10 people. We called them roomers. They'd come and had rented a room for the summer. And we had a kitchen, like a kitchen for them, with little stoves, and they had their own refrigerator, and they all used it, but they had little bags they kept their stuff in the refrigerator, and they cooked their meals, and the women and the children came during the week, and the husbands worked, and then they came on the weekend. They come on for Friday to Saturday night, and but the thing is that my brothers and whoever was around, sisters, whatever, put on a show. Every Saturday night we had a show, and we had a porch where we perform, and we put chairs out in the yard in front of the porch, a big yard, a lot of chairs, and my brothers Matt and Joe would be comedians and do all kinds of little jokes and little skits, and I sang in between the acts.
There it is.
And should I keep going?
Yeah, you can go. I'm just looking for the picture of your brothers there. Here.
Oh, I see.
But I think this might be from the farm. This picture, one of them. I don't know. If this
I don't know. There's a farm picture there.
The one with him with the hero holding his ear up like this,
I don't know.
like he's listening in, eavesdropping and
Oh
listening.
yeah, that's it.
That's from the farm, right?
Yeah,
That's from Wurtsboro, you
I'm
think?
the one. Yes, that's the one.
Let's
in
just see who's
Wurtsboro.
there.
Yes, that's it.
That's
Yeah,
the one. Wait a
that's
minute,
it.
just
You
see.
it there?
Yeah,
That's
this
it.
picture here.
Yeah.
And let's see. Can you tell us who's in this picture here?
Yes, I certainly can.
Yeah, let's look here. Let's look
I will tell
here.
you who's in the picture.
Yeah, this picture here.
This is Tante Chaisara, who was my father's sister. She was amazing. We used to call her number 5. You see, she'd sit and read the paper, but she knew everything that was going on. So we called her number 5, like the fifth,
Right.
spy. And then Aunt Anne is down on the bottom, and Aunt Reva Cohen, Uncle Harry's wife, she's whispering in her ear. I am standing behind Aunt Anne, listening, and I can't.
That's Roy. That's Roy with the holding.
Roy
no?
also, yeah, he's next to me, right?
Standing there with his shirt off, or is that
Uncle
Nat?
Harry? Uncle Harry.
That's Harry.
Yeah,
Standing up with the.
yeah, he's
Oh.
listening. Maybe Roy is there though.
I don't know.
You don't see
Roy
him
would
there?
have been younger then. How old are you in this picture here?
Oh, I don't know. I was already older. I was
Teens?
like 14, 15.
I see.
And
Who's that in the background over there?
these on the right,
Yeah.
those are rumors.
Those are the rumors.
The rumors
Okay.
are sitting around. That's what they did all day. They
I
sat
see.
out in the yard and they enjoyed
Okay.
the air.
So this picture would have been from what, about
And you know
1940
why,
or something,
You know
right?
why we took that picture?
Why is that?
Because we put out a newspaper, and I thought I had it somewhere, and I'd like to find it so everybody could see it. It's a very interesting thing. All my brothers and sisters, they put out a newspaper and they wrote columns. There was a newspaper in the States at that time, in New York, called PM. So they called this one AM.
And it was
you know,
like there's a
just to have
takeoff
fun.
on it, yeah.
They made it funny. And the articles were funny. They were so funny. And that picture was put into that paper. I wanted to show,
Right.
And
Well, if I recall correctly, this picture was also used by, you remember the Strassfelds who put out the Jewish calendar? Remember the Jewish
they
catalog?
did
Or
a
Jewish?
catalog?
Yeah, they were talking about Jewish, how Jews were like, it was against telling.
yeah, you're not supposed to
Tell story,
tell
to
out of-
gossiping and this and that. So
gossiping.
it
And
was
that's
showing
what
that
they were
people
doing,
gossiping. Yeah, yeah,
So that was good. Yeah, you're right. That's correct.
yeah.
So it's possible that maybe they didn't have room for it, but they wanted to put it in the newspaper.
I think no, that was but it was definitely in that Jewish catalog or the
Yeah,
Jewish.
they had it in the Jewish catalog.
Yeah.
And
Or calendar.
in fact, in the Jewish catalog, it shows Papa in the garden. We had a garden right outside. We had barns, about 2 or 3 barns behind the house, not right near the house, but away from the house. And we had chicken coops, and we had all kinds of buildings. We called one of them the shack, and we had fun. We had a good time with everything. Everything was made funny, and we had an old little truck that Uncle Nat used to travel around and buy things with. Like he'd go to the lumber yard and pick up stuff that we needed, and things of that sort. And we used to have, and people would go to up to the Catskills also to the hotels.
Right.
Neville, the Kutchers, all those hotels, and they used to stay there for a week or so, And then there were comedians who were there, well-known comedians, who used to stop at our farm on the way back to New York and buy eggs from us. We had chickens and a couple of cows, mostly one cow. So it provided for us with milk, and we made cheese and cream and butter out of the milk. And the eggs, of course, were wonderful. And we had all kinds of, we had a lot of land up in the back. So a lot of the children, when they came, the roomers, we'd take them on a walk back, in the back, all the way up the brook. The brook ran along that whole line. And we would take them to see, there was a place where there were falls, and one of the fields had falls from the brook. It was just beautiful. And one of the fields had wild strawberries, and you could step on them if you weren't careful. You had to step on them because there was no way to walk through the field otherwise. And we ate them, and they were so delicious. So wild strawberries, it was so sweet and so good. And that was, we had so much fun, and we'd find old trees, and we'd say, oh, I wonder what the Indians did here. Maybe they used to sing around it, or whatever it was they did. And then we just enjoyed that a lot. And then I went to a one-room schoolhouse, as did Roy and I went to a one-room schoolhouse up the road from us, from the farm.
You walked there?
We walked there. It was about not too far.
10-minute walk?
Less than a mile, much less. And we had 10 children in the whole school. And in the wintertime, one of the boys, the teacher would pick somebody to go out to get wood, and she'd make a wood fire in the stove, so we'd be warm. And in the summer, she'd take us out for a walk to see the animals and the growth of the trees and the wilds, and explain to us about some of the things that grow. And so we had that, and sometimes we worked on projects inside together. But they were, like I was alone in my class, and she would work with me on mine. And then she decided to put me in with another boy in the 8th grade because she felt, from 6th to 8th, I didn't have 7th grade. I went into it because she felt that I could do the work with him. But in the meantime, I missed all the arithmetic in 7th grade.
Well, each class was was 1 or 2 people, right? Not even 1 or 2.
Right.
You didn't have wow.
We didn't have.
And it was one teacher for the whole school?
We had one teacher. Well, it was only 10 students.
Wow.
And, so she gave each one a work to do, and we used to have that. We had homework and everything, and I remember in our living room we had this stove, a wood stove. Of course, that's how we got warm. In the kitchen we also had a stove. At home,
At
home, and we had coal. It was a coal stove, and we'd put coal in it, and it would be good. And in the living room, I used to sit behind the stove in the winter and read, because that's where it was warm, and I'd read books there, do my homework.
Yes, you told us all about high school in the one-room schoolhouse in Ellenville, and then you graduated from high school, and you lived on the farm, the second farm. And why don't you continue off from there, from when you graduated high school?
I graduated from high school when I was 16, and I can't remember what year it was. 1941? I can't remember.
Okay. Well, when you were 16 would have been...
I could figure it out, but I can't think fast enough.
Well, you were married...
in 1941.
Okay.
And then,
I think so. If you were born in 1925, then 1941 you would have been 16. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And I worked during those years. It was during the war, and I worked for a insurance agent in Woodridge. In Woodridge.
And you still lived at home?
Yeah.
You lived at home.
I don't remember how I got to work. I must have driven.
You had a car, you had a license by then in
I
16?
can't remember. I don't remember.
You had a
how I
car?
got to work.
How far is Woodridge from
Well,
Ellenville?
it's,
I mean,
it's about,
where? I mean, from
half
Wurtsboro.
hour,
I mean,
20 minutes.
wait, the
from
farm was
Wurtsboro.
on Wurtsboro. Yeah. So it must have. You must have. You wasn't a bus. You didn't take a bus. You got a ride
I
or something.
don't remember whether I did that. I think no, it couldn't be. And it was during the war, and the agent himself, Weisborg, his name was, he went to the army. So his father took over. And I helped his father. And we had to figure out the rates of the insurance, the rates of when people bought insurance. So I figured out a lot of that. I learned to do that. It was challenging, it was fun.
Yeah.
And then after a while, I don't remember whether his son returned from the army or what, but then I decided I would go to New York. I also had a small job in some store in Ellenville, but it wasn't anything for a long time. But this was a major job that I had, the first one. Because in high school, I studied secretarial, and so it helped me with being able to do this job right out of high school.
Right.
But it was really interesting, and I liked it. And I had to work on, when people had accidents, I had to show them. They showed me how the car hit another car. We used to use little toy cars to do it.
Really?
And then I would draw a diagram. We had to send it to the insurance company. And it was really fun. I liked it. It was something that was interesting to me. So that was that job. And then I decided I wanted to go to New York to see what's going on in New York. Maybe get a job, whatever.
Meet people. Yeah.
Meet people, go to school.
Yeah.
So I went, I don't remember the exact year, but it was in a few years from then that I went and I stayed with Aunt Ann and her family in the Bronx. She said, no, you come and stay.
That's your sister, your sister Ann.
My sister Ann. And she said, you come and stay with us because they made room. They didn't have that much room, but they made room. They wanted me to be there. And Ann didn't want me to be alone in New York, in a big place. And she said, start off with us. So that's what I did.
Was World War II still going on at the time?
I think it was slowing down. Something was going on. I can't remember anymore. Isn't
Like
that a
around
shame?
the mid-40s, around the mid-40s.
It was beginning to.
Were
I
you-
remember when I was in New York, and in the Bronx, and I belonged to Junior Hadassah. They used to whisper to each other. They said, "Oh, they're sending guns to Israel." They didn't call
Palestine.
it Israel.
To Palestine.
Palestine. They're sending guns to Palestine, but we mustn't say anything. People are working on helping them. So it had to have been around that time when that
Toward the War of Independence, but
yes,
it was
it
still
had to
going on
have
in the
been
1940s.
Probably, it was. I think it was 46 when I went to New York.
So it was after the war then, at the end.
It must have been after the. Yeah, I think it was after the war. I can't remember. Yeah, I think it was a little bit after the war. There were still things going on here and there, but basically, I think it was over, and that's why I was able to do that. That's why I went.
But the USO shows and all that, wasn't that
Well, that
also
was-
during the war still? Or it was after the war?
That's what I mean. They still had.
Oh, you mean there were soldiers still
They
abroad?
still had troops around. It wasn't all over completely.
Yeah.
So when I got to New York, and friends of mine who used to come during the summer said, when you go to New York, you look for a good job, look for fun jobs, something that'll be a challenge. I said, okay. And it was interesting. I found this job for USO camp shows. And by the way, when I was living with Aunt Ann, I taught the kids all about classical music and poetry, and I used to sing with them, and I had a lot of fun with the boys.
With her
They
kids,
were little.
huh?
They were all little. They were small boys, and Anyway, then I moved from Aunt Anne to a place called the Clara de Hirsch Residence for Women, which was founded by Clara de Hirsch. Clara de Hirsch was the wife of, I forgot already, he was a doctor? It was Rabbi Hirsch. Anyway, he founded that
Residence center.
residence and wanted to help the refugee women coming out of the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And so then they didn't have that many after a while, and they took local people.
I see.
So I got in. I was able to get in there, and I was there. I lived there, I don't know, a year or two, maybe more.
Did you share with somebody else a room or a room?
Yeah, I did actually.
And did you meet Holocaust survivors there?
Yes,
Huh.
they were young ladies who couldn't talk about it. I said one of them was studying medicine, and they were wonderful people, wonderful girls, and I'd say to them, "Can you tell me something about what you went through?" And they said no. None of them were able to talk about it. I can't tell you anything. I can't discuss it at all. And they did. Well, yeah, this one was studying medicine. This one was studying psychology. They just were brilliant girls, and they couldn't talk about it. They didn't want to know about it. And at this residence as well, we used to put on plays. We used to have there was a board of directors of this house, and they would come and watch the plays that we used to put on. And we had a lot of fun doing it. And then, after I moved out of there...
Wait, what about your first job in New York? You want to tell about that?
I don't know where I lived.
You said you were working in the USO camp shows, or was that after you left?
The first job in New York was the USO camp shows. I don't know if I still was at the Clara de Hirsch or not.
Do you know what USO stands for? USO, what does that stand for?
United Service Organization.
Ah, okay.
And that's when they were entertaining the troops,
Right.
American troops overseas. And they used to come and go in the office. And when I was working for USO camp shows, the job I had was to do it was the publicity department, and I typed up all the speeches that the head of the department made on. They used to talk a lot on radio. I don't know about television. Television wasn't that prominent yet in that aspect of life, but they talked on the radio a lot. And I remember typing up a speech for my boss and listening to it on the radio afterwards. And I said, I know all that. I typed it up.
Right.
And so that was fun. And I used to meet a lot of actors and actresses coming into the office. And one of the things that I did that I think is a little bit outstanding was that I did a radio show as a script girl with Bing Crosby. He was doing a show on the radio. I sat next to him and I held the script up for him to see, because that's what they had to do in those days. I used to I typed the script up, and for him, you skip a lot of spaces in between each line, and I held it up for him, and he was looking at it and talking, and then that was the days before they had the what do they call it now, when they look up at their
teleprompter.
Teleprompter. That was way before that. So so they called us script girls when we did that. We held it up for them, and that was kind of a high spot because he was so well known.
Right.
That it was wonderful. And then I remember another time, something like that. This is a little different, that I moved to another residence for women called the East End Hotel for Women, and it was on the east side, and 78th Street, and it was also very nice. I had my own room, and that's where I met Dad. I met him, Grandpa, and while I was living at that place. No, I can't say that because I think I met him after. No, I met him while I was at that residence.
At that residence, uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah.
And did you share a room again? Also, you had roommates.
No, I had my own room.
You had your own room. Uh-huh.
But it was a very tiny room, and I met a lot of very nice ladies there, and we had a lot.
It was also a women's residence.
A women's residence. It was for women. It was called the East End Hotel for Women, and also I once had to get an okay from Frank Sinatra whether we could use something that he said or did or something, but I had to get an okay from him. So I went into the phone booth and I made a call to him. I had his number, and he said that he was so nice, and he said, "Hello, honey," and I thought I'd fall down on the floor right there. It was just so much fun. And he said, "It's no problem. You certainly can use that whole description." I said, "Wonderful. Thank you very much," hung up. I walked out of the phone booth, and there were a lot of ladies waiting to make phone calls, a lot of women. So I said to the first one, "Can you believe it? I just spoke to Frank Sinatra." She said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to call the President of the United States now." So they didn't believe a word I said. So I said, "Oh well, what's the use? They'll never believe it." So things like that happened, and it was a lot of fun. And then
this was like a phone booth on the street, or was it in the building, in the residence hall? Where was the phone booth?
No, it was in the hall, in the residence.
Oh, in the residence hall. Okay.
Inside, downstairs.
There was no phone in your rooms. Nobody had phones.
No.
In those days, you had to go downstairs.
No, we went downstairs.
So if people had to call you, they had to leave a message at the desk or something?
I think so.
Uh-huh.
I don't think we had an extension from the main desk. I doubt it. No,
yeah,
too many people
right,
living there.
Right.
And then from there, I moved into an apartment with Madge, my friend Madge, and she had two other roommates besides me. And it was a big apartment on 14th Street, and that was very nice also. And so Madge was a very interesting person. She came from, where did she come from? She had this very heavy accent, and I can't remember where she came from anyway.
From Hungary or something?
Where? Hungary.
Hungary, Hungarian.
I think so. I think she was Hungarian. And so she had a very interesting life there. She used to have performances by people who were well-known musicians in her apartment.
You moved in with her, you said?
Yeah. I had a room. I think four of us shared the apartment.
This is in the village, in Greenwich Village.
14th Street, right near the village.
And
it was it was really a great apartment. It was very big.
Wow. Was Madge a Holocaust survivor?
You know, I don't know. I can't remember that. No, I don't know about that.
Okay.
I think I really don't remember.
Okay.
And her sister lived also. She lived nearby. And her sister was not married, from what I remember. She was single, older than Madge. And we had a very nice time there. It was really very nice. And then when Dad came to see me there, it was much easier than at the hotel. They had to let him in, let him out.
Yeah.
So it was very nice. And then before I got married, they made a shower for me. And so they asked Dad to take me out that day, so I wouldn't see what was going on, all the preparation.
It was a surprise. You didn't know.
It was definitely a surprise. And what they did was, they got a hold of my phone book, my little phone book, and they called everybody in the phone book to invite them to the shower, including my mother upstate, and my sisters. Everyone was invited, and they all came.
Wow.
And And it was a complete surprise because Dad made it that way. He took me out and we looked for a ring. We were engaged at the time, and he gave me a watch for my engagement. I never believed in much jewelry, and neither did he. We didn't care about that. That wasn't important. Being together was important. We loved that. And so so we came back, and everybody said, "Surprise!" And I thought, "Oh, Madge must be having one of her." I saw it was dark. I said, "Madge must be having one of her concerts there," but that wasn't it. Then when they came in, they all said, "Surprise!" And so that was wonderful. We had a great time. And then after that, we got married in 1952. One day, Grandpa, Dad, whatever you want to think
Lenny.
Lenny, we were taking a walk on, I think it was Fifth Avenue, one of the very nice areas in New York City. And we came upon a car, people, and they were very uppity. And they said, "Oh, my dear, do you think we should go to the show tonight?" Well, I thought, this is not real. This must be a movie. But so we looked at each other. We walked away, and we looked at each other, and we had the same impression of these people putting on air. You know, it looked so crazy to us. And we laughed. When we went away from there, we laughed to each other. And I said to myself, "He is for me. This man is the man I want to marry, because he thinks the way I do. He appreciates what I appreciate, and that was so important to me." And so that was a very nice incident. And then after that, I think we had after our shower, of course. I got a job in this ad agency. I worked there, and by that time they were putting on television shows, and they had some quiz shows going on, and they wanted some children to come. I said, "I have nieces and nephews." They said, "Well, get them on there." So I remember Teddy was one of them, and some of my other, I can't remember, a few of our nieces and nephews were on television, and I was so thrilled that they used them for asking them questions and all that. So that was a lot of fun.
It was the very beginning of television, or just starting television.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And that's why it was so exciting to me.
Right.
And I thought, oh, what a wonderful thing that is. And I don't remember whether any of them remember it anymore.
Okay. So maybe you want to stop here, and we'll start the next time about your wedding. You'll tell about your wedding.
Okay.
Okay? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, we're back. We want to talk to you about your wedding. So why don't you tell us about that?
We had a rather small wedding in Brooklyn, and
What was it? What year was that?
1952, and
February
3rd,
Yeah.
1952, and we were the service was performed by Paul's father, I think it was, or his brother. I can't remember exactly. The Agus family helped us with that. We went to near their shul, and we had the wedding there, and it was a very nice wedding. All the relatives came, and it was lovely. And then after that, we went on our honeymoon. Where did we go? I can't remember, but it was a very nice place. And we met another couple. They were also newlyweds, and we had a good time with them. And then After we were married, we lived in a small apartment in Brooklyn, in a very nice area, actually. It was in a building with well, everybody had 1.5 bedrooms. Actually, we didn't have a bedroom. It was one big room. You opened up the closet and out came the bed. That was one thing. And then we had a little kitchenette with it. And it was very cute. And we had about 6 of our friends were in the building. And it was the beginning of television. So one of them had a television set. So once a week we went down and watched television with them, all of us. We had a great time. And we really enjoyed everything. We had a good life. We had fun, we did everything. And then from that apartment, we moved to another area in Brooklyn, and that was, I don't remember exactly the name of where it was, but I did know it, and it takes time. It was...
Not Coney Island, was it?
No, it was opposite where Bubba and Zeta had they had a house. They owned a house.
Wasn't that on Turner Place? Wasn't that Turner Place, or was it?
Yes.
Was that wasn't
exactly.
in Flatbush? It wasn't,
they were on Turner Place.
That wasn't.
We were too.
That wasn't Flatbush.
Flatbush.
Flatbush. Right.
And so did we live upstairs? I can't remember. How awful. They had a house with 2 apartments in it, upstairs and downstairs. And I really can't remember whether we were upstairs or not. I think we were. I think so, but I don't remember.
Okay, it doesn't matter. Okay.
That was one apartment, and then so we lived there, and then we moved to another place in Brooklyn, also, and that's where both of our boys were born in that area. That was I can't remember that either. This is awful. I really should look it up, but I don't remember the streets. But it's okay. It's Brooklyn. That's all. Very nice part of Brooklyn too. Very, very nice. And we enjoyed that. We enjoyed living there. And both of our boys were born at Brooklyn Jewish Hospital, and they were 3 years apart. And when Bruce was 6 and Jay was 3 years old, we moved to Rockland County after that apartment, and that
was New City.
We moved to New City, and we enjoyed that very much. We joined the New City Jewish Center, and we had a very nice group of friends, the Schreibers.
Okay, that helps right away. Okay.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
So here we are, Motzei Shabbat, Parshat Parah, Tafshin Ayin Hey. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the chapters of your life, Mom, that are not covered in the footage that Jay did. Okay?
Okay.
And I'm going to be in the video with you to try to make it a little more
Okay.
alive and everything.
Sure.
Okay.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Okay, so my question for you about New City is, what made you and Dad choose New City as the place to move to from Brooklyn, New York, when we were little kids?
Well, we wanted to move from Brooklyn to the suburbs of New York, and we went to Long Island and looked around, and I really didn't like it at all. Dad wasn't that crazy about it either. So we said there must be a better area. So we had a friend who knew about Rockland County, the Doris and Sid Picorni.
Oh, yeah.
And I believe they moved there before we did.
They moved to Nyack, right?
They moved... No.
South Nyack. South Nyack.
No, I think I can't remember anymore.
I think that they lived in South Nyack. I remember that Eddie did you go to my high school?
Yes,
you
he
did. You're right. Yes,
they lived in New City.
Okay.
They lived in New City. And they had told us about it, Rockland County, so we said, let's go and look at it.
And Dad knew Sid Picorni from the Army, right, or something? Or
Well,
they were buddies in Brooklyn.
I think we met Sid. No, he met Sid through his friend Leonard Flomenhoff.
Ah, yeah. Leonard.
Lenny Flomenhoff knew the Picornis. I believe that's how he got to know him.
Okay, and let's go on to the decision about New City.
Right.
Yeah.
So we went to we went to New City, and we looked in different areas, and then we saw this new housing development going up, and some of it was done, and some of it they were putting up yet, from what I remember, and we went and we looked at it. I believe we went to a real estate person, but I don't remember exactly who what. It's funny that I can't remember it. But we chose, when we got to New City and we looked at this house, there were people living there. It was our house, it was a man who worked for
the FBI.
The FBI, and he was going to move somewhere else. They were very nice people. They were there only a year, I think about a year and a half, and they were. They said they liked it very much. It was lovely, and then we decided that we like it. So we must have come back again, and we gave them a deposit, and then we went over to the Schreibers, who lived across the street, and who became our very close friends. We went to look at their apartment, to their house, to see what it looks like and what they did with it, and how they carried on. So we went across, and the moment we went in, Barbara had to go her mother and father were in town. They came in town, and something happened to their car, and Barbara had to help them with it. So Jack was not home; he was working, of course. And so she said, "Oh, hello," and we said, "Oh, we want to move across the street." She said, "Oh, it's nice. I'll talk to you later, but I have to go and pick up my mother and father. And could you just stay with our children for a while?"
So you didn't even know them yet, and you were
No.
already babysitting for them.
And Janet
So
was a little toddler, and
that's really fun.
and Jennifer was upstairs sleeping. She was a little thing. So it was really a very interesting. It was so funny that Barbara Schreiber told that story for many, many years, many people, that how they left us,
Yeah, she trusted you right away.
Yeah, right.
And that was the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
It was really something. It was a very good friend. It still is.
Yeah.
It still is.
I remember the first day we were in New City, I walked across the street. They had a sandbox, the Schreiber kids, in the back of their house. And I played with the Schreiber kids. When you first see kids that you never saw before, they look strange. They look like almost Chinese to me. I don't know. They look like their eyes were like, I don't know. But I remember going to them and I said hi, and they invited me to come in, and we started playing together. And I played with David Schreiber, and to a lesser extent Janet for just a little bit when we were little kids, but for years and years until we went through high school. David and I used to get together. At first it was playing in the sand and playing in the backyard and doing all kinds of games. And as we went on, it became things like musical kinds of experiments and scientific experiments and all that kind of stuff. We had a very good relationship.
And was Jay got friendly with Janet, I think. He was more her age.
Yeah, they were closer in age.
Yeah. So he used to talk.
Anyway, they were really your best friends forever. They were friends and neighbors, both, which is two different things, but they fused together.
When they were able to, they used to come here to Israel to see us a few times and stay with us. But now I doubt whether they could make the trip anymore. But, they're a little on the older side now.
Yeah.
But that was great. And then our neighbors in general were very nice there. We moved in, and it must have been very hard on my parents, who were they didn't say anything, but they backed us all the way for doing it. but they
Because
must,
they continued to live on the same street in Brooklyn where you had lived.
no, but this is before they moved to I think it was before they moved.
No.
Was it after?
They were on Turner Place.
Oh, they were already
They
on
were
Turner
on, they were,
Place.
yeah, I remember it very well, as a child.
And did we live on Turner Place at that time?
Yeah.
Oh.
We moved from Turner Place. Before
Oh,
that, we lived
that's what it
somewhere
was.
else.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And so then we moved to New City, and well, they moved to Spring Valley after that.
Was it how long after?
I don't remember,
Yeah.
but they moved to Spring
Yeah.
Valley.
I know that by in the mid-60s, they were already in Spring Valley.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
They had moved.
Yeah, it was like a
Yeah.
couple of years,
Well, the
3
family wanted them to be near someone,
Uh-huh.
and I used to go there. I worked at Rockland Community College, and on lunchtime, very often, I would go to my parents, and I would look in on them and see what's going on, and that was just right. It was perfect. It did the trick for them.
That's great.
It was a
How
very
they were
good thing.
elderly already then.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it was very good. The way it worked out was it just dovetailed.
You were able to go, their house wasn't far from the college.
No, it was not
Wow.
far, and we had 2 cars, and Dad had 1 car, I had the other, and we were able to use both cars. It was very necessary at that time.
Yeah.
And
Did you say a little bit about your career at Rockland Community College? Because that was really the job you held for the longest time.
yeah, I was there quite a few years.
Well, how did you
I think it was
start
about
there?
17 years.
You started there as a...
I started as a typist, I believe. You had to take an exam, a civil service exam.
Uh-huh.
You pass it, and then I got the job. And from that, I went up to senior stenographer and then secretarial assistant. And I took a test each time.
I didn't realize that you started, I thought you started right away as a secretary. No?
Maybe I did. I thought
I
it was,
remember you
maybe
started-
you're right.
Maybe
I'm
the
wrong.
training you did at another
Maybe
job.
it was a secretary.
I think you were secretary of the English department at the beginning.
Well, I was, yes,
Yeah.
I was. I was secretary of the English department at first, you're right. So maybe it was secretary, not typist. I was thinking
You
of
were a
another
typist
thing.
somewhere else, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was a secretary, and then I became senior stenographer, and then I was, as I said, secretarial assistant, which I had to take a test for, all of them. But I got different jobs depending on what I passed.
Uh-huh.
And that entailed helping out all the deans and even the president. I helped in that office a lot, and I used to work on the registration for students. I used to put students into rooms, and
That was in a later job where you were like
When
working
I-
for the dean, right?
yeah, when I was
President,
working in the
yeah.
dean's office.
Uh-huh.
And at first I worked for the English department, which was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. It was a challenge because a lot of the material, the English people were so interesting, and one of them wrote poetry, and it was just a lot of fun. I had a wonderful time in that department.
I remember 2 things about Rockland Community College that I remember. Maybe you have other memories that you want to say, but one thing is the fact that you worked with one of the professors there was named Jim Naismith,
That's right.
whose grandfather was the founder of basketball,
Right.
right?
That's right.
And he was the one who made up the game of basketball, really. He was a football coach
Oh,
at, I believe, Princeton, if I'm not mistaken.
is that right?
Yeah, and he, I read this somewhere, we can Google it now also, but
Oh, yeah.
anyway, and he wanted to keep his athletes in shape during the winter when they don't train, so he put up a peach basket on each side of the gymnasium, and he made a game up. And that game evolved into basketball.
Wow.
That is probably the most popular sport in the world today,
Yeah.
or close
Very
to
much.
soccer or something
Yeah.
like that. Anyway,
Well, Jim Naismith was a lot of fun to work with, too.
Uh-huh.
He was great. So that's really interesting. He never talked about it, that his father was famous.
his grandfather, I think it was
His grandfather, was it?
Yeah,
But
it was in the early
I never-
1900s.
I found out another way. He didn't tell us
Ah,
about it. I
yeah.
didn't know about it.
Yeah. But his grandfather's name was James Naismith. It was the same name.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Very
that
interesting.
was one story that I remember about the college, and the other story is the Queen Esther story, which,
Oh, wow.
maybe you should tell that
Should
story.
I tell it?
Yeah, sure. It's a good story.
Well, I was working for the department for extension and what was it, non-credit
Extension division.
courses, extension division, and a lot of people who had courses they wanted to present would come in and say, "Oh, I have something I really would like to teach," and then the director would interview them and so on. Well, the director went out to lunch one day, and I was the head of the office at that time. There were, I think, 2 secretaries under me, and so this man comes in and said, "I'd like to give a course here." So I said, "Oh, so what course would you like to give?" He said, "Well, I'm an Arab, and I want to present a whole course about all that." Of the Arab,
What, the Middle East?
The Middle East, the cause about the
Arab-Israeli?
yes. And so I said, "Oh, really? Okay. Well, I'll tell him about it." And I think he wanted an appointment. As a matter of fact, I may have even made an appointment for him. I'm not sure. And I got his name down and everything, and he left. And the moment he left, I said, I have to check on this guy. I don't know what this is about. And so I think we better find out what's going on here. And so the girls that sat in the office said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I have to check on him. I just called my rabbi, and my rabbi said, look, I don't know anything about him, but it sounds familiar to me, and I think you ought to call the rabbi at the Monsey Jewish Center. He knows all about these people, and I think you better find out about it." So I said, "Okay, sounds good." So I called the rabbi at the Monsey Jewish Center, and he said, "What? That name? You must make an appointment for me immediately with the dean." He said, "Because I have to talk to him about this. This is not good." So I said, "Well, I think I'd have to check with him first to see whether I should make the appointment with you." He said, "Are you afraid to lose your job?" I said, "No, I'm not afraid to lose my job. I just want to do the right thing." So he said, "Well, I'm telling you, you'll do the right thing if you make this appointment." So I did. I wrote down the time. He was going to come like in a half an hour. He said, "When is your boss coming back?" I said, "Well, probably a half an hour." "Okay, make the appointment in half an hour." So I made the appointment and hung up. And the girls looked at me and said, "Oh, Shirley, what did you do?" I'm like, "Oh, that's so bad. What's going to be?"
Why is it so bad?
Because I made an appointment. At first I called because it was unscheduled, the whole thing.
You just stuck it into his schedule. You just pushed it other things aside.
Without checking with him. Usually he wants to make appointments with people. I'm not supposed to make an appointment for him. He does it. So they were all shook up about it. He came back, looked in his schedule, looked at his appointment book. He said, "What's this? What's this appointment here? What's going on?" Turned red in the face. He was really upset. He said, I don't know. Why did you make this appointment with this rabbi?" I said, "Well," I explained to him that this man came in and wanted to give a course. And he's going to make an appointment. I don't remember if I made an appointment at the time or what, but he was going to come back or whatever. And so I said, "And the rabbi wants to talk to you about it." He said, "Well, all right, I'll meet with him." But he wasn't happy about it. And so then a few minutes later, the rabbi walked in and went into the meeting with him. They had a meeting, and that was it. And then he left, and nothing was said to me. Nobody said anything. And a while later, I asked my boss, I said, "I know you had the meeting with the rabbi. What finally happened?" He said, "Well, what we did was we decided that instead of this man giving a one-man course, that we would have some kind of a group talking, having like a panel and discussing this whole subject. And so that's what they decided. Fine. No, that was the way. That was fine. And about a couple of weeks later, or a week later, when the man did come, and my boss presented the idea to him, he did not like it at all, and it died. Nothing came of it. It was completely. So
I wonder whether something like that would happen nowadays. I sort of doubt it.
Our Rabbi Soslin, said to me afterwards, he said, "Shirley, you are Queen Esther about this whole thing."
Because you risked your career for the sake of the Jewish people.
It's really, I didn't even think of it. And there was another thing that happened in the school. The first day of class, they had clubs. Tables with different clubs that the students would present and have for other students to see. So I went around. I used to walk around the campus and look around and see what was going on. I kind of check things out. And I take a look at this one table. I see people sitting at this, and I said, what is this? And they said, Jews for Jesus. I said, what? Jews for Jesus? Wow. I took the wastebasket and I took all the literature on the table and I pushed it down into the wastebasket. They said, what are you doing? I took all of it like this and I put it all in the wastebasket. What are you doing? You're taking it. I said, this does not belong in our school here. This is not a religious kind of, I don't remember what words I used, but I said, this is not acceptable. And forget about it. And I walked away. Well, I don't know what happened to them. They must have disappeared after that. I'm not sure what happened.
You didn't see them again?
No, but that's another thing I did.
Wow. Wow. You fought for the Jewish people in a few fronts there.
I helped them. Quite a bit.
All right, let's maybe we'll go back to discussing, that was sort of about and you worked at Rock Community College right up until the time you left for Israel.
Yes.
And you continued to work for them here afterward.
Yes.
So we'll get to that a little
Exactly.
bit. But about New City, New City was a good period for you? It was a long...
Very
You
nice.
lived there about 20 years?
We lived there about 24 years, almost 25 years. And it was wonderful. Dad had a practice in our home. And we down in our rec room, he made that an office, and it was, very nice.
Rec as in recreation, not as in Horva.
He also traveled to the city, to New York, and he was an optometrist there, working with, I forgot his name, the fellow who used to work for in New York. Wow. But he had his own practice in New City, and eventually, when he wasn't well,
Stern, Dr. Stern.
No. He gave up going to New York, and he had only his practice in New City, and everybody liked him so much. And when we moved when we made Aliyah, before we moved, so they said, what are we going to do without Lenny here? This is bad. So they said, maybe we can arrange to all come one day and have him examine us. So I said, that's a good idea, do it.
Who are these people, friends or?
Our friends, our people, some of his patients, mostly our friends,
Yeah.
They said, we've been going to Lenny for so long, what are we going to do now? We're going to be stuck. He was good. He was very good. So that was a nice thing.
But did they really do that? They came on one day?
No.
They
I suggested it to them, but it wasn't practical. People are not always free to do
Dad
things
would
like
have been
that.
driven ragged by that.
Oh my gosh, too much.
Anyway,
so that's
nice.
another thing.
Good story.
Yeah. That's
All
another
right, so
story.
so it was a good period, New City.
Oh, very good. I was very active in the shul at that time, and I used to sing the Star Spangled Banner, had tikva for each meeting, for the sisterhood meetings. And when I left, I made a tape for them.
They played the tape of yours?
They wanted to play the tape every meeting.
Wow.
I don't know if they did.
It's like I guess in
me.
Israel, the army used to have a band that would play, and now they just play recorded music, right?
No, but they asked me to do it, and I did it. I made a tape
That's
for
so
them.
funny.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
And then I was, I was editor for a while of the New City Jewish Center
Newsletter?
newsletter.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and that was fun. And I was active at the show. It was really very nice. We put on a lot of shows and did a lot of things there.
Uh-huh.
And it was just very nice.
And you had a lot of friends, obviously,
Yeah,
in the
many
city.
friends. Many friends.
Yeah. And you kept in touch with them over a long period.
Yeah, sure did. Yeah.
So let's zoom forward, unless you have something else you want to add about the New City years, about raising us or whatever. How
Well, I would say that I was going to school. You know, I got a bachelor's degree in I went to the
Empire State.
Empire State College, like a college without walls. And it was delightful, and I said
What that
everybody...
means is it's like a correspondence university,
Sort
of
of,
like the Open
yeah.
University in Israel.
Except it was more so, because I had a mentor who worked with me, and I also took some classes. I did take some
Like the Open
classes.
University. But they also
Yeah.
gave you credit for like life experience.
Yeah, they did. They gave me some credit. I had taken some courses when I was in New York, when I was single, and when I was working in New York. I was going to the New School for Social Research, and took music and
Whatever.
I don't know, science course of some kind.
Anthropology.
Anthropology was very good. And and other courses I took at other schools. So I had to produce a lot of material to show what I did, because I had taken notes during all those times, and that helped me. But and I also took a course in California with a college in California, some kind of I don't remember exactly what it was.
And this was before computers, right?
Yeah.
So it was all by correspondence, like by
Yeah,
letter,
yeah,
by not email, but by mail.
Mail.
They would send you the materials, and you would study the material and
Right.
take a test or something.
That's right.
Wow.
Right. They called it snail. Excuse me, snail mail.
Snail mail, right? We still call it snail mail.
But anyway, I mean now they call it
Now
snail
they
mail.
do, yeah.
Yeah. And that was another thing. And so there were many, and when I graduated, there were such funny things that happened. We had a party, Uncle Roy and Aunt Joan had it in their yard, in the garden. They always had parties.
This was after Beth and I were at Made Aliyah.
And wait a minute, was this after?
We were not there. We were not.
No,
I was
no.
older already.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Jay too, I think.
Jay may have been there.
Uh-huh.
Jay may have been there.
Might have still been
I
in the
don't
States.
remember.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, like, I can't remember who it was, who did a very funny it must have been Carol Agus. She wrote a whole funny thing about how long it took me to get my degree, and all kinds of funny things about it that were hysterical. I hope it's somewhere where I can show it to you at some point. It's very funny. And in general, it was just...
Mom, I want to take 1 second to make sure that it's still working.
Oh, yeah.
Just check it.
That's
Yeah, it's working. It's fine.
working. Wow.
Okay. I just thought like all this footage and we're not, getting it on.
Amazing.
It looks like still. I think it looks okay, like it's working.
You know what, Bruce?
Yeah. Anyway, back.
It's late, you better.
Yeah.
No.
Another few minutes.
Okay.
So my next question is,
Yes.
so
And it was fun to have you guys go to school. You used to go to school and come home and do your thing, have friends, all kinds of things that you did. And also, we enjoyed both of you so much. And one time we were sitting in the kitchen, this is a new city, talking, having a conversation about something, and suddenly I looked up on the stairway, and I see two heads poking out, and listening.
you and Dad were talking.
Dad and I were having a conversation, and the two of you were listening, and I never expected to see you there.
It was at night or something?
It was at night. You were supposed to be asleep. And you both came down. You thought it was an interesting conversation. You wanted to hear it. So you both came down and on the stairway. One is up higher and one is down lower. You have your heads poked out.
Poked out over the doorway.
Over the
Through the
wall.
doorway.
Over the wall.
Ah.
It was very funny. It was so. I said, "Wow, what are you doing up?" And then, what were you talking about? I hope it was nothing bad. It was funny.
I don't remember that.
It was just a funny incident. Yeah.
We were young, I guess. We were pretty young.
Yeah, of course you were. You were little boys.
Uh,
You were little boys. You were maybe, who knows, 13 and
no, that's not little.
10. No,
Twice,
well, that's pretty young.
Probably 8 and 5 or something like that, or 9.
Well, I don't know, maybe.
6.
Could be. Yeah, it could be something
Yeah.
like that. It's funny. And
Anyway.
there were many incidents that occurred with both of you that were absolutely terrific. Remember, our picture was on the front page of the paper because of something you did. I can't remember.
Who did it? I or you?
One of you, I can't remember exactly. Might have been a ball game, something. But it was. We did so many things. That really, it was fun.
Okay, so let's zoom forward and to the New City chapter. Kind of, Jay and I both left the house. I mean, I got married and I moved to Israel.
Right.
In 1976. After you were living there about 16, 17 years already.
Oh yeah.
And Jay at some point also went to college and wasn't home so much anymore and everything, and didn't live at home with you anymore.
Right.
And anyway, but at some point Jay made Aliyah a few years after we did,
Mm-hmm.
and came to study medicine here.
Right.
And so at some point soon thereafter, a couple of years after that, I would say, he was still studying when you came.
Yeah.
You and Dad
yes,
decided
yes.
to make Aliyah, and
Yes.
I'd like
Graduation.
to explore. Yeah, I'd like to explore that decision. Like what brought you to the decision to make Aliyah? How did you get to it? What was the thinking?
One of the biggest problems we had was when we spoke to you on the phone from there to here, Israel, and it was the middle of the night. And I said, I can't take this anymore. I can't speak to them in the middle of the night. I've got to talk to them properly. That was one problem.
Really? I never heard that one.
I used to get so, I said, I
What do you mean
can't
middle of
do
the
that.
night?
That's
What's
no way to visit.
What's the middle of the night?
Well,
Late at night.
we spoke to you like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Are you serious?
Guys.
We made you do that?
It's not that you made us. You had no time. You had things to do. You couldn't call at other times, and we couldn't call. We couldn't get you.
Really?
So we had to call at bad times. Very often it was not a good time.
That
And I said, this has got to end. I don't like it. And then, but then the other thing was that we knew that we couldn't stay away from both of you that long. We knew that we would have to, when we retired, we said, some people go to Florida, some people go different places. We have to be with our children, and we're going to go to Israel. It's a wonderful idea. And that was, we just felt that we wanted to. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, you wrote to us about that. And you said, why don't you come here and live? I believe you did. Yeah, I believe there was a letter that you wrote, and you gave reasons. I think so.
Yeah?
I think so.
An interesting document.
Why
I'd
we
like
would
to see
enjoy
it.
And the first day we came on Aliyah here, the table was filled with all kinds of material for things for us to do and where to go and information. I think Jay did that.
Oh yeah?
He filled up the whole table with all kinds of things for us to do. And
as I recall, you came like for a year to begin with, like a trial, kind of a...
Well, we didn't know.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we sold our house.
Mm-hmm.
We put everything in storage. And then we said, well, we'll go. And the very first day we arrived, you got an apartment for us, you guys. You got us an apartment.
In Yefenov, near Beit.
No, before that. Before that, you got us an apartment, a furnished apartment on Ellie Cohen Street.
Oh yeah.
Remember?
You're near the
And
books.
yeah, and that's when Jay was with us a little. stayed with us a bit.
Uh-huh.
And it was January. I walked out on the back merpeset. We called it a porch. And it was so very beautiful. It was the first day, mind you. I walked out and I said, oh my gosh, this is something that I will always love. I love this sunlight. It shows what's going on in this country. It's full of sunlight.
It was January?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a beautiful, beautiful day. And that was like, I still remember it because it made such an impression on me. And I said, well, this is the beginning of a beautiful life, of happiness, because this is a happy day, a happiness. And it was, and that's the way our lives were. Dad and I had the best life we could ever enjoy. We'd never have had that in the States without both of our sons, and eventually their wives and families.
You know, it's interesting because not everybody draws the conclusion that you drew. I mean, we have a lot of friends who made Aliyah. A lot of our friends are Olim from the United States, and percentage of their parents came, but not a big percentage. In other words, a lot of parents didn't come and weren't all that supportive. If they were supportive, they remained there and they made visits and everything. And you know, that's a model that a lot of people do. So
well, that's a good point that you bring,
yeah.
Because the point is that, which I may have mentioned before, I was very, very much into Zionism. It was one of the biggest things in my life. But never thinking that I would be able to live in Israel, it didn't occur to me. But you and Jay made it available to us. You made it possible for us to come. You see? And it was, and Dad wasn't as much involved as I was, because Uncle Roy and I became very much Zionistic because of the anti-Semitism we experienced, and we said, this is how they treat Jews. We've got to have our own country.
When you were young, you experienced it.
What?
When you were young.
When we were young, when we lived in Würzburg, it was a horror experience. It was fun in many ways. It was wonderful, but we also had people call us dirty Jew. It was terrible. And there was in high school, they had the Jews against the Gentiles who becoming president of the class or something like that. It was so obvious all the time. It was just terrible. And that's why we
both of you.
Both of us became, Roy and I became very Zionistic.
And your older siblings not so much. Why?
I don't know. They didn't have much of that kind of experiences. I don't know why that is. When we moved to Würzburg...
It was worse in Würzburg than in Bethel.
They
had wherever you were before.
Yes. In Würzburg, they had a Bund, a German Bund, many years before.
German immigrants.
Yes, and there was a German family living opposite us. So it was infiltrated, sort of. And the era of World War II, the whole thing, there was a lot of anti-Semitism in America at that time. But we got it real full force where we were. And we understood what it meant to be a Zionist. We understood it. And it was a natural tendency. And I belonged to Junior Hadassah. I belonged to the children's group before that. Young Judea. I belonged to Young Judea, but I was in the country, so I didn't go to meetings or anything. I lived in the mountains, and then Junior Hadassah. When I came to New York, I went to meetings. And they talked about how they were helping Israel with guns and everything, and we have to keep quiet and don't say anything to anybody. There was
they actually provided money to purchase arms from the European countries.
Yeah, sure.
Wow.
It was amazing what people did, amazing. And so that was a good question that you asked about that, because I
there
did
was a
have a
basis.
special
You had
feeling.
you had it. It was obvious to me that was the, and we got it from somewhere.
Well, you got it from me.
Yeah.
See, Dad wasn't so exposed to
Well, he grew up with his Jewish friends in New York. He grew up in a Jewish
he had a
environment.
different,
Yeah.
See, it was
Yeah.
different for him, but for us it was not the same.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and we realized how important it was to have a country for Jews. It was the best thing that could have happened. But whoever thought that we'd be able to live here? We didn't know. We thought it was for everybody who, who didn't have a home. Who they had to have a home to
Right.
like after the Holocaust and everything. But it was. I didn't have any adjustment here when I came. Neither one of us had any adjustment to make. We were happy.
You even read, I remember in the early years at least, you were able to speak Yiddish when you went to stores and stuff.
Yeah. When I was
Proprietors still were Yiddish
When
speaking.
I opened the office for Rockland Community College here in Jerusalem, I had to order furniture. And I said, what do I do? Let's see, I don't know any Hebrew. So I spoke Yiddish and it worked. There were people who knew a lot of Yiddish in those days. They don't know it so much now.
No, the younger generation, in
No.
the Haredim they do, but not in,
Right.
not in the general
Right. No, they
population.
don't.
In those days, the general population, still people spoke Yiddish. There were still people who
That's
knew
right.
it from their
I
childhood.
was able to
the way
get
you
away
did
with it. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And it worked. It was so funny. The girls in the office were hysterical laughing. Every time I'd order, they'd say, oh, that's funny. She's talking to them in Yiddish. It's really a funny situation. And that was good. That really worked. So there it was.
Wow.
Yeah, that
Very
was,
nice.
that was good. And, then,
Okay.
and so here we are.
Okay, I think we'll stop here because
Okay.
it's getting late. We did some nice
Yeah,
things. Okay.
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
We had some good
Off.
stories to tell.
Okay.
Off.
So Grandma, now that we've been to Café de Paris in the morning and we saw that you knew all the waitresses and the waiters and we met the manager who's excited to do your birthday party and we went to see you doing the tidbits, what is it that you would like to leave for all of your family, for all of your grandchildren, for them to know when they grow up for many years to come? What's your main message for them?
First of all, I want them to be healthy and well, and I want them to be happy. And I want them to be, I want all the children, all of you, to enjoy life and that's the most important thing in the world. And once you have an enjoyment of life, then you can see the world in a different light. You don't worry about this so much, you don't worry about that. I was a worrier, I worried, but I still had a good outlook. Didn't matter. I put it behind me. And there were troubles we went through, plenty, but I put it behind me. And I say, well, I have to live, and if I'm going to live, I have to live in a good way. So I feel that that's one thing that people should do, and that is to pay attention to that, It's very important. And my brothers and sisters, every single one of them, were good people. They were all good people. I didn't have any problem with, in a family, there's rivalry. Oh my goodness, never such a thing happened. No rivalry, nothing. Just, we used to enjoy each other, actually. We had a good time together. And like Uncle Joe taught me music. Uncle Roy taught me about business. Uncle Nat was humorous and had all kinds of things he'd talk about. And Aunt Reva was a kind sister to me who used to bring me, when she'd come from the city, she would bring me all kinds of little things, presents. And Aunt Anne was another one who, so just like gold, she was so good. And Uncle Harry used to hold me on his lap and play with my fingers and treat me, like a little girl, which I was at the time. I was a little girl, and I had the good treatment from all of them, including Aunt Mary. Aunt Mary also. I remember when her twins were born. I was 10 years old when she had twins.
Wow.
and they were married already a few years in Allentown, and they had it on the front page of the Allentown newspaper. And she, it was so cute. We'd go to visit, and I couldn't tell the difference between them. It was impossible. So I think that all that, and my parents were good people. I think all that has an impression, makes an impression on your life.
Yeah.
It does matter. It matters. All that. Because as I talk to people and they tell me about their backgrounds, I see it's not too good, some of them.
Yeah.
You know. And my friend Sandy was an only child, mind you.
Oh, wow.
So that's difficult. Yeah. Great thing. And I'm so glad you're going to university. And I'm glad that all the children who learn things learn it in different ways. They don't all have to go to university, but as long as they learn new things from life, there's just plenty to learn forever. The main thing is I love all of you with a passion very much, and so did Dad, Grandpa, whatever you called him. He loved everyone so much. We both did. And people envied us, our family. And this was an envy of, even when I was single, and people envied my family. They said, "Oh, you have 8 children, how wonderful, and you're all so nice." We always had that, I had it after I was married, same thing. People said the same thing about our family. And that's so great.
What do you have to say about the modern world that we live in, how it's changed from when you were younger? What do you think the good things are and the bad things?
It's a very good question. It's a very good question because of all the new electronic devices and everything. It's overwhelming to those of us. I'm not the only one who feels that way. Everyone in my age bracket, sort of. We all feel overwhelmed by all the new things going on. And think of it. We were born in an age where we didn't even we had horse and buggy. We had no electricity. I mean, really. So when you think about that, and you're coming all the way to this end, wow, it's quite something. I hope everybody uses it wisely, that's all.
I was going to ask, how do you think it's changed the way people interact with each other? Have you seen a difference, the way that people live their lives?
Only that, did you get an app today? Or did you, what are you talking about, an app? What's an app? You know? Or they interact very well. I think people still have a good feeling for each other. I think so.
And do you think that will continue in the future?
I hope so. I hope it does. You know, they talk about a new era with living a long time and different things that can happen and so on. Those are all dreams. I can't fathom it. And I think it's just nice to have a nice life the way you are and grow with each era. Each era does bring new things, and you have to grow with it and be with it and understand it, and that's good. That's the way it
And
should
you're
be.
doing that. You have your own tablet,
Yeah,
mobile phone.
right. I have trouble with it sometimes, and I say, I'm angry at you because you didn't. I was writing a note and you went away from me. I lost it. And this is,
Yeah.
I probably did something I shouldn't have. I don't know.
Oh, we're all learning.
Yeah, right.
Can you tell me about any of your birthday parties that you remember as a child? How did you used to celebrate your birthday?
I don't remember having a birthday party. I really don't remember. I don't remember it at all. Isn't that funny? I remember them wishing me happy birthday, everybody, but I don't know if I had a party. I don't know. I can't remember it. I think it's so strange that I can't, because I must have had something.
What about in high school? Do you remember?
Parties, birthdays in high school. No, I don't remember that. See, I was 16 when I graduated from high school.
Right.
and that's young.
Yeah.
So I would, I was a baby, really. It's much too young. I mean, even if they think you're good enough and you can do it, it's too young.
Yeah.
People should go according to their age, because no matter how smart they are, it's necessary to be with people who are mature like you, do.
Yeah.
Not ahead of time.
Yeah.
I wasn't that mature. I don't remember anything. I don't remember birthdays right now. I might have remembered it a few years ago, but right now I just don't remember anything. Isn't that strange?
So why don't I take you back less far to when you first arrived in Israel,
Okay.
when you made Aliyah? How do you see how Israel has changed in those years that you've been here?
Oh, it's grown up. It's become very Western and very much. I mean, when we first came, you couldn't get a lot of things here, and the food was limited. You couldn't eat. I wasn't that excited about eating in a restaurant here. Now the food is terrific, and they make everything, and they know about everything.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and I think it has a lot to do with the input from out of the country. I think a lot of immigrants came and changed things a lot.
Yeah. And did you ever imagine you would have so much family born in Israel, Israeli family?
Right. I think that even though I have friends I have still some friends left at home, that is at home, in New City.
Yeah.
I think that they, I wouldn't say envy us, but I think they would like a life like we have here somehow. They don't say it, but I'm sure they notice that it's a different life we have here. It's a good life, I think.
Yeah.
It's healthier. It's something that's wonderful about it. And when we first came here, there were people who spoke Yiddish. Now they don't speak Yiddish anymore. They speak, they speak more English.
Yeah.
And it's a funny thing. But it was, I loved it the minute I arrived here, and I still love it.
Wow.